Hello and welcome to the video. In this video we'll be looking at my tried and tested recipe of an American Hoppy Pilsner, which is where bright US hop aroma and flavour meets the classic Pilsner. Here you have the drinkability of a lager while adding subtle fruity citrus hop character, which is certainly a very popular style these days as something that most beer drinkers really enjoy. So let's get started. Let's begin with a fast look at this recipe's vital statistics, essentially so that you can see what is on offer before we get to the tasting section. As you can see, the recipe offers an approximate ABV of 5%, making it a beer that you can enjoy in many settings, and this one pairs really nicely with food too, especially chicken, hamburgers and spicy food in general. The BU-GU ratio shown almost at the bottom shows the relationship between bitterness and alcohol at 0.61, which offers a very nicely assertive, crisp and refreshing drinking experience. The recipe for this beer can be found in full within the video's description, which is underneath the video window when viewed on a desktop computer. You'll also find a link there to the full recipe on Brewfather, which can be used free of charge with some restrictions. As always, I strongly suggest that you fully convert this recipe before ordering in your ingredients so that you're actually brewing the recipe as it is intended. I also strongly suggest that you brew the recipe as is for the very first time rather than tweaking it, as tweaks are already in place to bring this recipe into a very good place. Otherwise the work I have done here is rather a waste of time. I have an easy guide to recipe conversion using Brewfather on my channel as shown on screen now. Within this video, this recipe is being brewed using a Brewzilla Gen 4 65 litre brewing system to the volume of 19 litres or the equivalent of 5 US liquid gallons. But as part of the conversion process, this can of course be scaled and shaped to suit your own brewing system and volume requirements. Let's now look at the water, which is a vital element for any beer. Shown on screen is the water profile that I recommend for using with this recipe. Naturally, using the right water profile is very important. After all, beer is mostly water, and its balance is vital so that it suits the beer style that you're brewing. This yellow dry profile from Brewfather works incredibly well as it highlights hop bitterness and crispness, but naturally represents just one way to go here. So if you have a different profile that you really enjoy with this kind of beer style, then by all means go with that. Brewfather has extremely good documentation on how to use the software to make the necessary water changes too, which makes the whole process very easy. So I suggest that all brewers, irrespective of experience, start treating their water as soon as possible for the very best of end results. You may well be surprised how easy this actually is. Onto the brew now, and I have added all of the malt, and I'm now going to give this a very good mixing within my mash water. For this process I'm using Kegland's malt mixer and a drill, which makes things highly efficient and fast, but naturally you can use a mash paddle. But be sure that to be very thorough, as skimping at this stage will impact the rest of the brew and could result in a lower level of alcohol, which will also result in the beer tasting more bitter than intended. My mash water has been heated to my first mash step's temperature, which is now shown on screen, though if you are in a low voltage country, you may wish to heat the water a little higher at first. Mashing in at 65 degrees Celsius or 149 degrees Fahrenheit for 60 minutes produces a highly fermentable wort. At this temperature, beta amylase is the most active enzyme, creating more fermentable sugars. The result is a beer with a lighter body, higher attenuation and a dry, crisp finish. This mash temperature is ideal for this beer style, where drinkability and clean bitterness are key. Once the preparation was finalised, it was then time to start the mash. So let's now look at the grain bill we used here. Firstly, we have Pilsner malt at 93% of our grist, which makes up the backbone of the beer in terms of the fermentables and contributes a clean light malt flavour, pale colour and a crisp finish. Next we have Vienna malt at 5%, which adds a touch of depth and gentle bready and lightly toasted notes. Then to finish up we have Carapils or Carafoam at 2%, which enhances body, head retention and mouthfeel, helping the beer feel fuller without adding sweetness. It's a simple grain bill, but it is ideal for this beer style. Next up we have the sparge. Here we are rinsing the grain bed to extract the remaining sugars that are held within the grain. The trick here is to not let the water go too far above the grain for the very best of results, so be prepared to do this step in stages. If you notice that your water does not build up, then you will actually have a grain crush that is likely too coarse, which will certainly impact your efficiency in general. It is then time for the boil. The first step here is to remove the foam that you will find on top, which is protein. There was not much in this brew, so this will be super fast for you. Let's now look at the schedule for the boil. As usual, this brew uses the modern boil time of 30 minutes, which not only saves us time but also keeps in more of our malt flavour, which really helps this recipe sing. On the other side of this recipe we have the hoppy elements, so let's now look at what that will offer. Firstly, we have Magnum, which is our bittering hop shown here in orange with its spice and floral elements, but much of this will be lost due to us boiling it for 30 minutes. So what remains is that smooth bitterness backbone that Magnum is renowned for. Centennial, shown here in blue, brings its classic citrus character. Think grapefruit, light orange, and a subtle floral note. At its 15-minute timing, it adds both flavour and a little extra bitterness, bridging the gap between bitterness and aroma. Then we have Citra, shown here in bright green, the first of our two hop stand hops. Citra delivers bright tropical fruit, lime, mango and passion fruit, with very little added bitterness. It's all about juicy modern hop flavour. Alongside Citra, shown in red, we add Simcoe during the hop stand. Simcoe adds depth and complexity, bringing pine, resin and darker citrus notes. It balances the fruitiness of Citra and gives the hop profile a more layered, slightly dank edge. Then lastly we have Mosaic, shown here in light green, which joins Citra as a dry hop in this recipe. Mosaic brings complexity and depth, layering notes of blueberry, stone fruit and tropical fruit with a subtle earthy edge. It helps round out the aroma and prevents the hop profile from feeling too one-dimensional. As a dry hop, Citra pushes bright, juicy aromatics to the front. Expect fresh lime, mango, passion fruit and citrus peel. Citra adds that vibrant modern hop aroma that really jumps out of the glass. As much as these are bright and bold American hops, they are added with a level of restraint, of course, within a Hoppy Pilsner recipe. Overall, you can expect bright citrus up front, with tropical fruit layers, along with hints of stone fruit, along with resinous and piney undertones. Getting back to the brew now, and it's around the mid-stage of the boil, not that this really matters, and I'm preparing my counterflow chiller by passing boiling hot water through it for sanitation. This is of course a vital step, as this will be used for chilling after the hop stand when temperatures will be lower than boiling point. During the boil I also added my immersion chiller to sanitize that, as this will be used first for chilling down to the hop stand temperature. Once the boil and the initial chilling was complete, it was then time to add the hop stand hops of Citra and Simcoe. These were given a very good stir and then left for a total of 10 minutes. Due to the temperature, this hop stand will preserve the delicate aroma and flavour of these hops. This results in a more saturated hop flavour and aroma compared to boil additions, which helps this one sing. It was then time for the final preparation before transfer into the fermentation vessel, which has already been cleaned at this point and now needs its sanitation step. It is a very good idea to perform this as close to the transfer time as possible to avoid issues, ensuring that every part of the inside has contact from the sanitizer. Here I'm using Kegland's Power Sprayer, which makes light work of this task. It was then time for transfer and yeast pitching. For this recipe I'm using Saf Lager SH45, a new lager yeast strain from Fermentis, chosen specifically to enhance hop expression. This strain is known for its ability to unlock and transform aromatic compounds from hops, particularly thiols. During fermentation, SH45 helps release and esterify these compounds, boosting fruit character and amplifying citrus and tropical notes. The result is a beer that stays clean and crisp, like a lager, but with brighter, more expressive hop aromas that really complement this recipe very well. If you cannot obtain SH45, then Nova Lager from Lallemand and Fermentis 3470 will also work, but unfortunately these will not enhance the hop expression in the same way that SH45 will. After some testing with SH45 yeast, I recommend a fermentation temperature for this recipe of 17 degrees Celsius or approximately 63 degrees Fahrenheit. This gives a reasonable fermentation time, as well as a nice clean character and controlled fruitiness, without any solvent or sulfur issues in my experience so far. But I would recommend that you raise this temperature up to 18 degrees Celsius or 65 degrees Fahrenheit for diacetyl cleanup and improved attenuation. This slightly higher temperature is also totally fine for your dry hops too, which is coming up next. The very next step is concerning the dry hop additions, which are now shown on screen. Add your dry hops when you are between 5 to 10 gravity points away from your predicted final gravity. I have tried all methods of dry hopping, but frankly nothing so far has had as good results, and there is no need to buy a book either. The very most important thing here is to keep things clean and sanitary, so here is a guide to doing that in a way that has never failed me so far in hundreds of brews. In this example I'm going to use a hop sock, but the procedure is similar with other container types. This starts with boiling the bag. I strongly recommend doing this no matter if the bag has been previously used and cleaned, or if it's a brand new one straight out of the packaging. I then add this bag into a clean container and add sanitizer as a further safeguard. This will be the same container that I used to load the hops into. After this point I then wash and sanitize my hands, and this is repeated if I need to touch the bag after touching anything that is not clean and sanitary. These are very important steps to avoid contamination, which is all too common when it comes to homebrewers making IPAs because of this step. I then carefully add the dry hops with the bag lining the container, being sure that nothing touches the bag except for the hops. Once you have loaded all of your hops into the bag, then be sure to tie a nice strong knot to keep all of the hops contained. This loosely fitting hop bag, so there is room to expand, can now be added into your fermenter. In terms of contact time, 3 days is usually going to be plenty, but 5 days is fine too. I would avoid times more than a week to avoid grassy off flavours though. Let's now take a look at the finished beer from this batch, starting with the pour, and I will then go through my own personal tasting notes with you. You can see that the pour is very light gold in colour, but once in the glass the end beer is more of a sunburst gold colour. The example you see here is totally natural and no attempts have been made to give it any extra clarity, but it's already starting to clean out quite nicely on its own anyway. This beer has been under 12 psi of pressure, which is 0.83 bars, and I'm using this pressure for serving too. The example you see here is at around the 2-week point from kegging, and I expect it to taste a little bit more clean and crisp after a couple more weeks, but it's already very acceptable. This beer is certainly at its best when tasted at between 14 to 16 degrees Celsius or 57 to 62 degrees Fahrenheit. This keeps the beer crisp and clean and allows hop-derived citrus and tropical notes to shine. Temperatures under this will mute flavour in general, especially from the hops. Here is a look at the exact same beer behind a light 2 weeks later, so as such at week 4, which is what these tasting notes that follow are actually based on. I feel that this photo better represents this end beer, though naturally it is showing a lighter colour behind a light. So here are my tasting notes, starting with aroma. Here we have bright citrus up front with juicy tropical layers, with mango and passion fruit being the dominators here. There are also hints of stone fruit and a little blueberry too, which is held together with a light resinous and piney undertone background. Flavour. On entry we note bright citrus along with a clean crisp quality that has some lime zest, grapefruit and a touch of orange. It's fresh rather than sweet, leaning towards citrus rather than juice. In the middle you will discover more tropical notes, but in a refined, clean and crisp experience. Towards the end you will note more stone fruit and berry adding depth. As you venture down the glass you will likely find more of a slight impression of ripe peach, or even a whisper of blueberry complexity in the background too, as well as some resinous and piney undertones. The finish here is dry, refreshing and light. And here are some notes. This is a very clean and crisp hoppy drinking experience that offers more restraint than an IPA or Pale Ale for greater drinkability over a drinking session. I must say that I really enjoy this kind of style myself, as a refreshing interlude from big hoppy beer, which I actually love. This beer style should certainly not be confused with an IPL. So here is my final impression. Here we have a lager that feels modern and expressive with balance between hop and malt flavour. It's clean, crisp, refreshing and highly drinkable. So there you have it. Do let myself and the community know what you think of this video, and later on, once you have brewed this recipe, your own tasting notes and impressions. It is always appreciated to have feedback. Cheers! I do hope that you found this video useful, informative and interesting. If so, why not consider liking and subscribing? For further support you can join the channel's Facebook group, and if you would like to support the channel then check out the channel's merchandise store, as all profits go back into the channel. Until next time, happy brewing!